I think we can slowly prepare for the discussion. I see that people are still joining. At the moment, we are about 32 people. Everyone, what I would like to say at the beginning is that the webinar is going to be recorded, just for you to know. We haven't posted the recordings on the website, but we are thinking to do that for the future. Meanwhile, I encourage you to use the chat to introduce yourself as participants, say your name, the country where you are based, and also feel free to use the chat for any questions during the discussion. That's actually encouraged, not just it's because we will try to answer as much as possible your questions and your specific request for information. Well, I think we can start. I would also like to say, before we go, to officially say hi to Werner. Thank you, Werner, for joining. And feel free to hop on board anytime during the discussion with questions and guiding and answering the questions from the chat. Again, I would like to welcome everyone to our webinar today, the Young Researcher webinar, part of the Young Researchers webinar series organized by IALE-Europe. The theme of today's webinar is how to prepare for an academic job interview. And today we have two guests, Teresa Pinto-Correia and Hubert Wiggering. They are both of them experts in their field. I would like to say a few words. Oh, don't be shy. To say a few words about them. Teresa is a professor at University of Evora, as she has mentioned earlier. And she's working on dynamics and management of the rural landscape, relations between agriculture and the landscape, multifunctionality, and the transition process in rural areas. She's also a member of the European Commission expert group on soil health and food. And she has a very vast experience on coordinating projects. So I hope Teresa's experience could help answer some of the questions today about how to get a job, maybe even in a specific project or in a scientific project of your interest. Hubert is a land scientist. He has been Secretary General of the German Council of Environmental Advisors and also a director of the Leibniz Center for Agricultural Landscape Research, and is now holding a professorship of geoecology at the Potsdam University. And he's the head of Land Science Working Group. He's a member of several policy advisory boards in the field of environmental and sustainability, and management board member of the German Agricultural Research Alliance. So welcome again, our guests today. And I think we could start with a few questions. Well, questions about questions, I would say. I'm sure that throughout your career, you have been part of many committees of hiring young scientists. And what would be, in your opinion, the questions that candidates receive most often? I don't know, maybe Teresa, you would like to join?
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks. And thanks, Simona, for organizing this, or IALE-Europe. I think it's really interesting to be able to share what we know or our experience with younger researchers. And I'm very happy to be here with Hubert, which I had not seen for some time. So it's always a pleasure. And I mean, I think there are different dimensions to it. But generally, what I look for when people apply for a position, it's whether they know what they are applying for and they are well informed about the project. For instance, if it's an European project, they have, they show a motivation for what is the area, what is the topic being dealt with. Because it happens that people are applying for something and they are just relying on their own knowledge and showing what they can. But more and more you have to adapt what you are and what you can, what your knowledge is, to different challenges, and being able to know what these challenges will ask for you, or showing, I mean, I'm expert in this and this and this, but in this project, which when you have to see how the project is, I will be able to contribute to this and this. I think it's very important to position yourself with your skills to what is demanded from you, and not just say what your skills are. I mean, your skills can be very good, but if you cannot position yourself in relation to what is there as a question or a job description, then it's not flexible or adaptable enough. I think this is one of the questions which I would think, or that I would do anyway, and one of the most deciding criteria for whether because some people are very good, very, very skilled, but it's like they show their skills and that's it. And the adaptation should be on the side of the job giver. And I think it should be the opposite. The one who seeks the job should be the one to adapt to the position. So that's my first contribution. I don't know, I think now Hubert should say something.
Yeah, thanks. And also thanks for inviting me for this discussion. It's really a pleasure to jump into this discussion. And it's just to repeat that what Teresa said on the one hand, and I mustn't do that, but on the other hand, just to underpin this a little bit more, if there is an application, if you are burning for a job, it's what Teresa said. It's not only to show that you do have this scientific expertise. It's also that immediately, if we are going to write these things, that if you feel comfortable with this, if you are going to identify yourself with that, what you have written down over there. You must be aware about this, that if you do have a little bit experience with these interviews, you immediately register whether this is the case or not. And on the other hand, every application is different. There is no blueprint. Forget that. You always have to look very, very detailed what's going on over there. Try to figure out what institution is behind that's offering the job, and try to figure out what people are within this institution, whether there is Teresa behind it or whether it is me, and this makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
and so inform yourself before you are going to apply. Inform yourself and try to realize what the situation over there is. This is, from my point of view, the very first and very important step into direction. All the other things then will, flow from itself, so to say.
Yeah, exactly. I think if I can complement, sometimes we have people who say in the interviews how good they have been in what they have done before. So how much they have done. But if they say, well, I have done this and this, and I've thought about this position. I could do this, and I could complement what the others in the team do by being this way, or, you know, projecting yourself in the future. That's much more promising. Yeah. If it's grounded on something you have done already, then somehow you show you can, and but you project yourself into this context where you are going to work with.
And it's always one of these questions you should be aware of, that people are asking you, hey, what will you achieve during the next 5 years? And you have to have an answer for this. Otherwise you fail. And also it's not that easy doing if there is this question, hey, introduce yourself. How would you do this? It's not really that nice for us as when we are going to interview you. If you tell us everything what we already could read within your CV, you should be somehow innovative, somehow creative about this. Tell us these things that you didn't or you do not list up within your CVs. This is much more exciting for us.
Yeah.
Thank you to both of you for answering this question. What I noticed is that both of you highlighted the fact that when one applies for a job, he or she has to think about how they could fit within either a project or the institution, as you, Hubert, mentioned. So I was thinking now about the preparations behind the interview. Would you recommend using like a standard CV when applying for several jobs, or tailoring the CV and thinking beforehand about the questions one would receive during the interview for a particular job at a certain place? So more tailoring, or more using having this the concept of a CV, standard CV prepared?
Well, I think the question is, the answer is obvious, isn't it, Simone? I think you should adapt your CV to what you are applying to, because you need to show that what you have that best suits to what is demanded. And it may happen that you apply for positions which are similar, then you can use almost the same. But I think there's nothing less convincing than a CV which you see it's 2 years old, or which doesn't show something which is relevant for the position. I think this is obvious. You need to pay attention to this, that you tailor it to the position, and think, as any communication exercise, you need to think about who your receiver is. So it's different if you are applying for a position where you are supposed to be very interdisciplinary against the position where it's the specialized skill as an ecologist or something which is demanded. Or so you need really to tailor it to who is receiving this information, and make it as not just appealing. I think it's awareness raising, that someone looks at the CV and says, oh, this is something which I could really use, which could be really useful.
But nevertheless, having a somehow standard CV wouldn't be that bad to start into this process. It's very important to have a good structured CV. That it's easy doing for us to survey these information we want to get out of it, and so a somehow standardization that it fits to your career, that we can see how you went through all your jobs during the last years or something like this, what kind of experience you made here or there, that this is something that jumps into our eyes, so to say. and on the other hand, to be a little bit creative and to tailor it as Simona described it. Yes, this I agree with Teresa. This is very important. This shows that you have prepared yourself for this interview, that you have prepared yourself, that you do have this background information, what kind of job this might be. And on the other hand, also in the foreign, it's not bad also to ask something. It's not that bad to come up with a question over there. This shows that we also have prepared ourselves what kind of person is face to face to us, what is she or he thinking about this situation over there. It's just a kind of yeah, getting in touch with each other, getting somehow familiar with each other, and this also can be prepared within such an application already.
Yeah.
I was wondering, you both already provided some hints on how to structure or organize a CV and how to think about more innovative way to present oneself. I am wondering, I'm sure you evaluated many CVs throughout the years, and many of them were very good, either in terms of publications or in terms of experience that that person, that candidate had. What do you think it makes for a CV to stand out? What makes a very good CV? Or how do you recognize behind the written document, how do you recognize that this is a perfect candidate? I can understand that it might be a difficult question, and it depends from...
No, again, there is no blueprint, but on the other hand, when Teresa and me, when we started our career, it was the classical way to go into this, to apply for these jobs and so forth. Nowadays, things happen electronically. And hey, why not preparing a short 2-minute video, for example, to present yourself? This is not that unrealistic. If I would be confronted with this, I would say, hey, I can see how also the body language of these persons is, and so forth and so forth. So just to be creative, this is the message behind this.
Yeah, exactly. Once I evaluated, we were searching for someone for communication. So it was for a project, and it was science communication. And we got a CV from someone, well, it was a Portuguese woman who has been working in Germany for some time. And it was incredibly, not, I wouldn't say funny, but it was really using a lot of communication tools in her CV. So it was not a video, it was a CV, but organized in a different way. And that was really appealing, because it was really someone who had thought about what means to communicate. What does it mean to communicate? What your skills are? And she was really, I think she was very good. And we interviewed her, and she could have had the position, but then she decided to stay in Germany because she got another offer. But I mean, this question of being a bit creative and making something which really looks appealing, I think in some situations can be good. If you are applying for something which is, it depends also on the type of call. If it's at least here, and I think in Southern Europe at least, when you have an application which is for an official position, as a job position which is published in the journal of the Portuguese government, and which is, for instance, a position at university as a young professor, then it needs to fit some formal structure. But if it's for a project, for instance, then there will be the one responsible for the project, which evaluates your CV. It's much less formal. It can also be a position, but it's not one of these official university positions. It's as a researcher. Then you can be more creative.
But how formal is formal?
Yeah.
Does this mean, yeah, it should be serious on the one hand, but on the other hand, just to think about it, I'm sitting in front of my guitars over here, and I'm not a singer-songwriter, but just as a virtual aspect, I would or I had to write a song over there. Due to this job, due to this position over there, due to the task behind this. And just to start with this, if I would have to write a song about this, have to prepare a text for this, what would be the starting line for this? This would be creative. This is serious enough. It's just an example.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm just saying, you in these official applications, you need some. There's some criteria, and you need to fulfill. You need to be sure that you reply to all these criteria. But within these criteria, then you can use your creativity somehow, mainly to show what your skills are. And in this case, she was applying, this example I gave, she was applying to a communication position, science communication. So she was really communicating her skills in a very good way when she was presenting herself. That was very interesting, I think. That was really something which called our attention as evaluators. And I would say that this question of the criteria is important. I mean, if the call says this person has to have experience in teamwork, has to have international experience, has to have an education in biology or ecology, or you should follow these items and show that you reply to all these. So you should organize your CV so that this is very clear. Okay, replies to this in this way, replies to this in this way, so that the evaluator doesn't have to search for your skills, how they reply to what he's asking for, lost in your CV. So I think you can be very imaginative or creative and stand out of the normal standards, but pay attention to this criteria and make the life of the evaluator easier, because it shows this, that you are adapting to this position. I think this question of being adaptive, it's extremely important nowadays, because we are faced with new challenges all the time. So it's important to show this.
Yeah.
I think you partially answered one of the questions in the chat. Andre from Humboldt University asked about applications for professorship. Of course, a professorship is a complex job. It involves research, teaching, involving in department or faculty activities, and other activities. And I was wondering what would be the most important things to pay attention to when applying for a professorship. So I think you already mentioned some. If you would like to add some other suggestions here.
Yes, I would. But Hubert, you want to say something? No? We are now. We have been in Portugal for many years, almost closed universities for positions, but now it's opening up. So we are opening, recent years, we are opening quite many positions. So it's something I've been taking part in quite frequently. And I think besides what we said, that if there is these different criteria, you have 5 or 6, you need to pay attention that you reply to this criteria in a clear way so that your CV can be organized. And I've even seen CVs where they say, well, in relation to this, I've done this. In relation to this, there is this. And this is, I think, a very good way to organize. So you really follow what is in the call. but something else which is not really related to how you organize your CV, but how you are or the experience you are, is that being a university professor nowadays means that you need to work with other colleagues. You need to mobilize others, research assistants which are there. You need to create your own team maybe, or work with other teams. So you need to develop also these team building skills, or it's very important. Because if you are someone with a very, very good CV, but it's mainly working alone and having only your own projects and your own publications, that's less strong for a position in the university, because then you will somehow, you will be less, in principle, less appealing for someone who needs these, for a department which needs these bridges to be established. So I'm saying this because very often very good researchers with top publication lists and high ranked, if they have been working very much alone, they may be very good for a research position because they know very well their field and they are very innovative, but less good for a professorship where it is expected that you engage with others in your department. Mm-hmm. I think for me, this is one of the criteria which is more important. I'm not saying that I had really favored a very good CV compared to another one which is less good but more collaborative. I've never been in this situation, but this is definitely something which is we are looking at. I'm looking at, and some of my colleagues also, as a skill which is important.
Also highlighting the social skills that one has.
Yeah, and the capacity to make team building and work with other disciplines. Well, that will be even better because the position in university will change a long time. I mean, it's very difficult that you are only asked the same thing along your life. You will be asked to do different things, work with different type of orientations, and so you need to show that you are able to these adaptations and to work with other people and mobilize the others if possible.
Yeah, this is somehow a déjà vu at this moment. I'm sitting in 3 different boards at this moment, at 3 different universities, and these are always professorial jobs for landscape ecology or geoecology. And what I realized is that most of the people asking for these professorship over there made one important mistake. They always expose themselves as really good scientists, as specialists within their field, what you mentioned as well, Teresa. And what they very often forget is that a university is a university, and that you have to give lectures, and that you have to work with students. And you are drawing that much emphasis onto this scientific aspect, and all these other things are, such minor aspects within your application over there. This is somehow strange. And especially within this changing world that during the next years you will have a new approach how you are going to offer lectures online, or how you can do this physically. You have to find a new mixture about this, and this does mean that it's very important to get in touch with the students, that you have to motivate them going into this, let's say, landscape ecology field, how complex this is, and being aware about all these crossovers, that on the one hand, you are a professor for Andre, professor for whatever. And on the other hand, you are going and digging the depth over there. But on the other hand, you have to bring back this information into this overall frame, into this complex, into this systemic approach landscape ecologists have to deal with. And this is a steady hopping from digging the depth and being broad, and finding the right way how to teach the people about this. You yourself have to be inflamed about this, otherwise you can't do this. And the students have to feel this. If you are not burning for this, the people, the students say, hey, forget this guy over there. And this is something that you have to be aware about before you are going to decide, hey, to become a professor for whatever.
I see we already have some, well, not a question, but some feedback from the participants, particularly for what you mentioned, Hubert. Andre, I think, again, is saying that while indeed this is true, it might also be the systemic issue within the academia that people are kind of trapped within the publish or perish paradigm, and the educational part is not so much valued. So maybe I would turn this into a question when one has to evaluate a candidate, again, for a professorship. How much weight do you think the research part and the teaching part gets?
Yeah, just this publish-perish discussion. Oh yeah. We don't have this time behind us, but at the moment there is somehow a change about this. Evaluation criteria change that on the one hand, yeah, publications count. This is true, and you should be aware of this. This is really a hard criteria. No discussion about that. And you have to be good within your field, and publications are indicating this, yes. But it's not only that we are going to count publications, that we are looking how high these indices are and so forth and so forth. If I do have such a list of publications in front of me, I'm going into the net and looking into these publications, and I'm reading them to get an impression about the candidate. This is the one aspect. On the other hand, more and more these indicators, practical experiences, these soft skills, or teaching, these things become more and more important again. We have lost this a little bit, but nevertheless, be aware, this perish and publish, if everyone is going in this direction, and we do have these, let's say, 10 candidates, they are on the same level about that. All of them do have that much publications, they are that good, and then we are looking for the difference. And if you have forgot that a university job also has something to do with teaching, and also has to do something with all these formal things, bureaucratisms and so forth, this makes the difference. Don't forget that over there.
So
Exactly. I agree.
highlighting the people behind the CV and the list of publication, not just putting forward the research. Sorry, Teresa, you wanted to add something.
No, I wanted to agree with Hubert and saying that if you want to apply for a position as a professor, then you need to highlight the teaching. And if you don't have the teaching, at least, if you don't have formal teaching, what have you done in this sense? Training, participating in intensive courses, guiding students. And I think there is this dilemma of, that you need to publish, but you can conciliate the two. Mm-hmm. I think so. And I think you have to pay attention to this, that it's very different that you apply for a position as a researcher or apply for a position as a young professor or professorship, because there you really need to dedicate some time and some of your energy to the teaching. That's important. And I think, I wanted to say something in relation to this question of the young postdoc position. There was a question by Daniela applying for a first postdoc position. And I think that's maybe the advantage of the younger postdoc is that you can show, or probably will be more open. You don't have so much experience, but you can be open to different to different orientations in your career. And sometimes postdocs which have more experience and which have been working as researchers all the time, what I've been verifying sometimes is that they are really good in what they are doing, but they have been really pushed to publish a lot and to be very, very, very skilled in this area. But then you think, well, it's not exactly what I need. I need something which is a bit different from this. Will they be able to adapt? Will they be able to be flexible enough and abandon what they are doing? So I think the younger postdoc, if the young postdoc shows that they have the enthusiasm, that they know what the project is about, and that they have questioned themselves about what could I do there, which can be an added value and can present this in an interview, maybe it's more appealing even, because it shows that you're not, that you will develop along the project, what the project needs, and not push it or try to move it into your area of expertise, which is this one very specialized. So it's not necessary, I think, a disadvantage that you are a younger postdoc in relation to these extremely skilled, but also extremely focused researchers, which would naturally continue in the same direction because they have been trained to be this very, very specialized. But I think there's room for all of it, of course. But.
And I will try to answer the other questions over there. We shouldn't talk about the absolute number of publications you should have finishing a PhD or something like this. I think this is not fair. Within this field of landscape ecology, you are very often not really that specialized. If you are dealing with a really narrow aspect, you can publish and publish and publish. You will have during a short time a lot of publications, but you are that narrow. On the other hand, within this field of landscape ecology, and this is something what people await, that you can deal with complex, with questions, with systemic questions over there, that you have to be somehow broad, and a publication within this field is not that easy than dealing with a very specific aspect. And this was the reason why I mentioned that I'm reading papers, that I'm reading these publications, just to get an idea about this, what's behind this, how broad are these people, how do they go into this discussion, and so forth and so forth. So this is something you have to be aware about, that it might happen to you that people really just count publications, but this is not everything. And the other thing is, there is this question whether to publish only in high-ranked journals, or whether there is this also gray literature, or local journals or whatever. In the meantime, the focus on this changed a little bit. That on the one hand, yes, we are somehow familiar about these high-ranked journals, but nevertheless, a journal with high index not per se guarantees that this is a high-quality journal, or that the publication within is per se a high-quality publication. Within these gray literature and local journals, I learned during all these years, and this is a lot of them, that information presented there is much more, that this information are getting faster to the people you want to reach, that you can really address them more specific, that you are more influencing, for example, within this policy business. It's very important to put these needles into the discussion and to tease them, and you can't wait all this time having reviewed your paper. This is something where you have to be fast, where you have to be very quick to jump into this discussion. And this is something sometimes only possible if you go into this local or journals or into this gray literature. And so this counts as well. And you should find the right mixture over there. And you should really, when we started to discuss this, what is creative, you should offer this within your applications over there as well, that you also are familiar with this way to offer things within local journals, within newspapers over there and so forth. This is not bad to have this as a strong talent as well.
I was wondering, we discussed quite a lot about publication. Do you recommend young researchers to get involved in other type of activities within the academia, or even outreach activities if it's possible to them? Diversify their the impact, potential impact of their work, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say so. I mean, you should not, I think you should not diversify too much. You should have good quality work in what you're doing, but that depends very much on the area, I would say, on the domain where you are. You know, outreach activities, I think they are always important in the team. Whether you should do them as a PhD student, for instance, I think it's much more difficult. So I don't think you should go for it right while you're doing your research. But if your team does, and if you're working as a postdoc already, probably that makes more sense. I think you should also understand I think each person should understand what they are good at. And if you're not confident with doing a lot of outreach, then maybe you should do something else. I don't think all the profiles need to be the same. It's just that this is also valued nowadays. So for some positions, it's important. That's what I would say. I mean,
I agree. But Werner
has a question.
Raised his hand.
Yes.
Hello, Werner.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I think it's very encouraging what you have said on some of the last questions, to be maybe also to look a little bit more off the track and not just follow the standard reputation criteria, publish as much as possible in high-rank journals, but also looking for some or emphasizing soft skills and so on. So because I also think that there is a lot of discussion going on that some things need to change in the system. But I would be interested if you're also involved in committees of selection processes and you're with colleagues together. Do the colleagues through the line, through the row, really agree on that? Or is that also that some people say, no, this is our most important aspect that we need to look at? So I'm wondering if this is an outstanding opinion of you too. I mean, it has been, of course, also an idea to invite you because we know that you are open to more innovative ways, of course, but I'm wondering if this is really the broader opinion or if there are also people looking differently, so that applicants also have to keep an eye on that the evaluators may also look on different aspects.
Teresa, they will never ever invite us again because we are too open-minded.
Too open-minded. It's good that our colleague evaluators, they are not listening to this. No, I don't mean it. I think.
May I start, Teresa? Yeah. Werner, yes, there always will be some people, if they are not no, this is not fair to say if they are not sovereign enough. But nevertheless, these hard criteria give you much more orientation. And it's much easier to follow these criteria, yes. But on the other hand, what Teresa and me were just arguing is that you do very often have this situation that there are so many really good qualified young people. They are on the same level, and you have to find criteria how to differentiate, how to find the right person, and you can't give all of them the job. You have to make a decision. And therefore, this is something we shouldn't discuss any longer. You have to be good within your field. Dot. This is it. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, there have to be some extras. There have to be some surpluses you have to deal with. And this is just to make you somehow sensitive about this. So, Werner, yes, there are these people and they will argue like this, but there are always people like Teresa and me within these commissions, and they are looking for these other criteria. You can be aware, no, you can be sure about this.
Yeah, and I think they are more and more. I mean, it's not so closed or so as it was maybe before. I think not everyone is. I agree with Hubert. There will always be people looking at these different things. Yeah.
And just to make you also a little bit sensitive about this, preparing these interviews. And this is not something where you can say, hey, there were these applications and now I'm going into such an interview, that's it. No, you have to prepare it.
Yeah.
You can be sure that I need the same time to prepare an interview with you as you needed to prepare your application.
Yeah, yeah. I would also say, I wanted to say that from the beginning, that it's not an easy task to be an evaluator. It's very difficult to know that you are deciding well, because very often you have this, as Hubert was saying, there's two, three, four, which are very good. And which one is the best one, or the one that best suits the position? It's really difficult. And very often you take one decision and then finally it shows that it was not a good decision. I don't think you can avoid this, that there will be always a percentage of mistakes or not taking the best decision because that was the decision which seemed right at that moment. So the more information you provide about what you're able to do, what you have thought about this position, you have prepared yourself, the more this creates, I think, a ground for the evaluator to think, okay, there is someone who is really investing in this position. But there's a degree of subjectivity, of course, in all the evaluations, and we know that. So it's a question about, sometimes for me, it's very much, you sum all the criteria and you have someone which is almost the same position. And then it's very much about, was this convincing? Was this really someone I would like to work with? So there's also this dimension. So if you really want a job, you should invest a lot in this application. Also because you can think, well, my chances maybe are small, but it will help you to another one and another one. I mean, making applications, I think, help us, or it's like projects. When you're writing projects and not all the projects are successful, but it helps you to the next one you are going to apply and the next one. And then at the moment you are successful. So it's never lost work, I would say, to prepare for this interview and for this application.
It's very good that you mentioned, Teresa, the fact that the more information you provide, the easier the task of the committee is. We have a quite specific question from Ernest asking, what would be the difference between a cover letter and a statement of research interest, in your opinion?
I think it's pretty similar, isn't it?
Simona, I was just reading the chat. Sorry, I didn't listen.
I'm also keeping an eye on the chat as much as possible.
This is...
So you would see the two documents as more or less similar in terms of the information they contain. So the cover letter would be expressing the interest in applying for in the job, and then highlighting the research interests. In both.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I mean, I don't know what type of application has these two documents, because I think the cover letter is very much your own motivation. Maybe the statement of research interest is how you find this research to be relevant and how you will fit there. I see both of them as where you reveal what your skills and why you think you're fitted for this position. But maybe the statement of research interest is more, what is your interest and how it fits to this. But I think they are very similar.
And do you remember when we started our discussion, Teresa was mentioning that, or Simona was asking this question, whether you have to have a tailored or a more standard approach. It should be tailored, and cover letter just gives this very first impression, makes you somehow asking, hey, what kind of person is behind this? And but nevertheless, this should fit to the following. A cover letter is not something what is separated from everything. This must be somehow an application that where the things are going to interfinger, that it is a more homogeneous things. So never ever write a cover letter that is completely different from that what we find later on. This would be a criterion to say, hey, forget it. We will not follow this application any longer because things don't fit together.
Mm.
So one should tell a story with the documents.
Yes, the storytelling.
Yeah, storytelling is important. Yeah.
And there was this question, why, who was it? No, Ernest, I can't answer this, why you failed. Probably you should explain it a little bit more, that just raise your voice and show yourself that we can talk about this. There were 3 candidates, and what happened then?
I think Ernest is asking, he was among the top 3 candidates for a position, but finally did not get the position, and what happened. Maybe I would formulate this as a question. Is it common for committees to provide feedback to the candidates, even the ones that did not get the position?
Yeah.
I'm not offering this per se. No, I'm offering this, but I'm not doing this per se. I'm offered that people can try to get in touch with me afterwards, and they are kindly invited to talk about this. It's somehow, not how to find the right word for this. It's not that fair to fix this in a mail or to write this down. It's but much better to explain this in a personal conversation, that to discuss this a little bit more in detail, and but they didn't follow Ernest. They didn't give you this opportunity to get this information?
Yeah. Sometimes when the candidates ask for it, I think here it's the same. You get normally a standard reply, but most often the reason is because there was a better candidate. You can be very good, maybe there was a better one, and that's it. It doesn't mean you have done something wrong, but someone really was more indicated for the position. That happens. But I think it's important to give this feedback when the candidates ask for it. And I'm not right now exchanging emails with a Brazilian colleague who applied for a position, a researcher position, which someone else got. And his CV was very interesting. It was just a bit more on the side of what was needed. So it was not really, and he's now exchanging and suggesting that he could come as a visiting researcher, and that's very interesting. So you can also, I mean, sometimes you can continue with the discussion. I was president of that committee, and it's also an interesting CV, so it would be nice to keep in touch. So I think it can happen that the candidates ask for some more clarification, and then we explain, and then there's some contact afterwards.
Feedback is indeed very useful for young researchers to.
There's also this question about. There was this question about this. I think you're applying for these. This is a completely different story. This is not a job, and there are really these scientific aspects are really the argument, and the soft skills are not that important. This is the other way around, that you have to build up your own team. That first of all, the people don't ask whether you fit in a team. You will get this grant, and that's it. And then you can build up your team. So this is another situation. Just to give a short answer to that as well. Yeah.
We also have a question from someone that worked as a postdoc for a while and then moved to a position for the United Nations, where worked for about 4 years, and now wants to move back to academia, but doesn't have enough publication, but has a sound teaching record at 3 universities and also formal training on university. And what would be your suggestions on the possible ways forward?
I would say just try it, because what we are doing within this process is that we are asking not only ourselves, also the Commission, whether these things the people or this person did in her or his job during this time are adequate to publications. And if this is a really interesting person, if the Commission thinks that this person is qualified, but that this is the only argument, that the number of publications is not good enough, then you can ask for this adequance, and this really works. On the other hand, within the German university landscape, we do have the universities sensu stricto and the applied universities. And these applied universities are searching for such people to do, who do have these practical experiences. So this might be a step in between to go back to the into this university landscape, going to an applied university, and then back to the not real in the classical university. There are ways to handle that.
Thank you, Hubert. As our webinar is ending, should end now. We have reached the time allocated for it. I was wondering if you have a final advice for the young researchers that are present today.
Well, what do you want to say?
Nee,
No, I think one of the advice I have, one of the advices I can have is that you should keep on trying. I mean, do not give up if you really want to continue it in research, because it's not easy to get the position, but it's not impossible either. And I can see also for other types of when we are applying for research funds, and it's not easy, but if you continue, you will get it. And the other thing is that you really have to reflect on what is your most positive and interesting points for the different positions you're applying to, and try to make this match, to make the match obvious. And do not apply for a position which is not at all your face, because it's worthless. You will not feel good in this position. So try really to search for where you will do well, even if you're younger or have less experience than what you think the others have, and show how you better fit there. But make it visible, make it explicit. I think this is extremely important.
I would have 3 aspects. First of all, yes, you should be good in your field, as Teresa mentioned, but also be brave. Just in the field of landscape ecology, not only being an expert in one single field, but also this be brave to go into this meta synthesis aspect, Try to be more systemic within your field. And on the other hand, and this is really the important aspect for me, try to be yourself. And last but not least, you always should have fun with it. Within your job, you should try to show the people that you identify yourself with this, what you are doing there. Just have fun. This is, for me, the most important driver. Otherwise, I never, ever would do something.
So do it with pleasure, not just for seeing it as a job that you go every day, but put your passion into what you're doing.
Yeah, this was the reason why I said fun. It's a little bit more than pleasure, you know. You can be really, don't be always that serious. Don't look always that serious. Just be prepared to laugh, to meet at the coffee bar. Oh, Teresa, I need the espresso now.
Yeah.
Or, Teresa, that this is awful. We are sitting here in the northeast of Germany. It's raining, and Teresa is sitting there in front of the best red wine of the Argentejo. So this is not fair, Teresa.
No, that's it. That's how life is. We have to catch up when it's possible.
Okay.
That's the promise.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we will also have a well, not webinar, but then it will be a seminar where we can all meet in person. So
Yeah.
I don't know if this year or next year. This was our initial idea with the before the webinar series, to have an event where young researchers can meet with more experienced researchers. The idea is still standing, but we will have to wait for a more favorable situation worldwide.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I would like to thank both of you for sharing your experience with us today. And also to thank the participants for the questions and the feedback they provided. And we keep in touch for sharing the information. I see that already some participants asked for your contact details, but I think we can discuss that via email. To also keep an eye on the GDPR regulations. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you very much. It was very interesting.
And take care of you, all of you.
Yeah,
okay?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Have a nice afternoon.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Ciao.
Ciao, Hubert.
Ciao.